Okay.
So, in glorious fashion, the recording has started. So, Bonnie, could you tell us about yourself, like what you do, how you got into doing what you do, why it's important to you that you do it?
Okay, wow. That is a lot. I do gosh, two main things in the cannabis space. Um One thing I do is I've organized marijuana meetups across the state in Ohio. And there's three cities in Ohio, Cincinnati, where we started, and Columbus and Cleveland, and we meet monthly at a public place. It's just a gathering. We have a combination of patients and doctors and growers and processors. We have all the local dispensaries in the area. And everybody just comes and we put on name tags and get a chance to hang out, build community, share resources, collaborate, and what we do best around this plant. So, Ohio was very restrictive and very reluctant in its medical and adult use. Even though we are there, it's good to have a strong community supporting us and supporting them. And to be honest, it's a great group of fun people. I just kept meeting more people as I delved deeper into the community, and it sounded like a great idea to bring everybody together, and a lot of deep friendships and business relationships have flourished from that. Um, in addition to that, I teach at a university that's in Cincinnati, and I teach in their cannabis studies program. So every semester, I have a new group of students from across the university. It's a large university. I believe there's 50,000 students. It's undergraduate, it's graduate. Um, we have everything you can imagine, from engineering to business to horticulture to all the arts and sciences. So all the students, they come taking this as an elective, or they want to add it as an additional degree along with their majors when they go out into the working world. But they're all coming from across the university, from all different disciplines. And we are all meeting together, and it's a wonderful thing. Robert has been very generous with his time and expertise, and we've invited him to join us every semester. This is our eighth semester, and if we say we had 40 students each semester, it could range from 25 to 50. That is a lot of students to educate, and I make sure that they realize that they are actually ambassadors as well. They are going out and spreading the word. Everything they are learning in our class, they need to be communicating to others. They need to communicate it to their peer group, their friends, their parents. We go on tours in the industry, and if we have extra spots for the class, the first thing I say is, invite your parent. Let's blow their mind. They're paying for your education. Let's show them what you're learning and what the world has become. And they're shocked, they're enlightened, and it's been a really positive experience from every level. And that leads to why I really admire what you're doing, because not only is Robert was organizing veterans in Ohio, and then it grew and it moved national, and now look what we're doing internationally. I mean, we have countries of veterans, countries that have never worked together before, not been in alliances, might even be enemies, but all their veterans have common needs and want this plant as their first line of medical treatment. And there's nations that are way ahead of us, like Israel, that are already using it, that can be the guiding light. So I love how in every environment I'm in, everybody is collaborative, collegial, wants to share their information and create a community. So I see what you're doing. And I'm trying to do the same at many multi, mini, micro levels. And I'm really excited to see it happening worldwide. And did I cover everything?
Oh
Um,
yeah, that
I've
was great.
also done training for doctors. I have a website. I've done a lot. I've been able to do a lot of training for doctors in our state. As they got licensed, I mean, there weren't even any products in our state, but luckily, I had saved packaging from decades of other states and we were able to go over the labels and the products and how to dispense it and how they were made and even to be educating doctors. That was a wonderful opportunity to be in. Um,
So have you always been in education? Has this always been your thing, or what did you do before the whole education component that you're doing and spreading the message?
well, it won't surprise you. I was a social worker. I was in social work. I've always wanted to make the world a better place. Like when I was a little, I knew what I wanted to do. Like everybody around me is like, what am I gonna do when I grow up? But and what will I train for? But I knew it like immediately as soon as I saw all the unfairnesses and the injustices, and realized I'm on the lucky side of this. But I want to try to make it fair and equal and have everybody have all the same opportunities. So I went into social work. I have my master's in social work. I've worked in various communities, and I've had the opportunity to teach at a college level as well in my social work field. So, with that education and outreach background and community building, I actually specialize in community or organization management and planning. So it was a degree in community organizing, and I realize I'm community organizing at many levels, and I use every bit of my education all the time. I took classes in small group dynamics, and here we are, a small group, all talking and sharing. And I realize I'm being the conversation hog right now. So, yeah, but I mean, everything I studied really, really helped. And that's a really encouraging thing because so many people study things that do not really apply to life skills. And I'm really glad I had opportunities to study those very young and throughout my life. And I've always worked with great people, um, which is also great. It's a great group of people that come into social work and want to make the world a better place. And I could see that in all of you also. Yeah. And I was so nervous for this. Oh,
Oh,
I mean, I'm feeling the love and seeing it all. I actually I don't do interviews. This is like one of my first. I am asked to all the time by students and podcasters and but I don't really like to talk about myself. I'm comfortable talking about what I do and how it's making a difference to inspire others. But working so closely with Robert all this time and watching this organization grow. I had to say yes, and I feel very welcomed.
I'm glad you joined us. And please feel free to hog up the conversation as much as you like. This is about getting to know you and your work for us. And if you have any questions about what we've been doing, it can go both ways if you like. We can answer some questions too. Um, but from my perspective here in Arizona, you mentioned that Ohio is strict. Arizona's strict too, which is like these states who have a conservative lean towards them, um, that pass these laws, medical and recreational, but then punish the people who live under the freedoms provided and afforded them through the passage of these laws and the legislation that's on the books now. But we have a whole group of people that's apparently set out to do everything they can to keep those boundaries clear, where it's like we still have these people over here and then the respectable type over here that can freely move about without worrying any kind of adverse interactions or whatever, professionally or personally. Have you noticed that the lines are starting to become a little bit blurry, or are they still strict? Like you have your martini crew, and then you have the cannabis crew, and it's like oil and vinegar, like no real, or water and vinegar. There's no real crossover or um, what's the situation like in academia and with the work that you're doing? Are you still pushing through a lot of boundaries?
Yeah, I have to say, yeah, there are not many programs in our country that are giving university degrees in this, but there are more and more programs. I think there might be like 40 now across the country that give different level university degrees. And here's another cool thing. We've circled up. We meet annually for 2 days and we share our curriculum and we're trying to set standards. We're all doing really different things. And when I was handed this course, I I developed it in my own way, and we start out with the science and the history, and then we go through the regulations. And regulations we're talking about in Ohio, our state, across the country, and then we are actually doing our global unit, nation by nation, across the world. So I would so love to hear what's going on in Israel with cannabis in terms of medical, in terms of adult use. But if I've answered your question, but I might not have answered your question. I might be switching to a new one. But yeah, Ohio, they really don't want to do it. It's really a conservative state. So it's gotten through and they try to take each part of it away. It was voted through by the voters. Um, However, the regulations need to come into place. And so each attempt at the regulations, one of our regulatory body comes up with something really strict that will reduce the plants, will reduce the dose, will reduce every aspect of the program. And then the other state authority takes a look at it and says, oh, we're not strict enough. We have to rewrite this. So they're rewriting it. And then it goes back to the other group. And so if Ohio plays out, it'll never get done. This has gone on each year since the bill has been passed, and nothing has actually been changed. They don't really agree on these restrictions, and then there's a lot of testimony against them from the people, which is good. And then the sessions are over for the year, and it's kind of just so we have an ominous devil at our door, but it hasn't gotten through yet. And so far, the program has been continuing to develop. Um, and then there's a whole other controversy in our state with hemp products, particularly intoxicating hemp products, but they haven't really settled on the definition. But that is outside and parallel to our entire regulated um, marijuana business in the state. So there is animosity and competition between them, and now we're getting divided, and we'll have to watch and see what happens. Ohio has overstepped with the government and regulatory um, direction that it actually conflicts with our federal direction. Because federally hemp, which is merely defined as the exact same plant, but it has less than zero point 0.3 THC, that is legal across our country. Um, yet it has derived intoxicating components that are unregulated, and the attempt to regulate that has caused a big controversy in our state. How to regulate it separately, how to bring it into the system, and everybody has different opinions on that. So our state's probably down to hemp versus marijuana. I see more of that than alcohol cannabis division, if that makes sense. And Robert, step in from our state because you're seeing it all happen too.
Well, I think you answered a lot of the questions that I had, and when we were having a conversation with one of our colleagues from Illinois who works in this field, he's a botanist, he's a scientist, and he works with the plant. And when they were passing or had passed the Farm Bill in the iteration since 2018, he was saying, look, they don't understand the biology of this plant. They don't understand the makeup of this plant or the various compounds. And they don't understand that you can produce all these various other components of it under this legal now umbrella, which is going to do all this other stuff because they're making regulations based off fear and not understanding things as opposed to science and clear, objective thinking. Um, but I don't know, Nahum, you're over there in Israel. You guys have a mix of things that seem to be better, but then in some cases seem to be a little bit worse than where we're at too. I don't know if you want to step in.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for sharing so much, Bonnie. Your perspective is really enlightening for me and opens new knowledge. Here in Israel, it's funny because in one way it's still illegal drug, but we have the medical side of it allowed in a special permission to use the illegal drug. So around research, it's made a lot of problems to research in Israel and to develop and evolve new startups, new businesses, new industry. To really opens it. We have here few companies that still grow medical marijuana, medical cannabis in Israel. We have a lot of import. We import a lot, mainly from Canada. And there is lots of interests that collide. The business interest is very strong, and the crime organizations are really, we can really feel their impact because there's a huge market of illegal use in marijuana, in cannabis in Israel. It's really something that a lot of people enjoy as recreational, but it's still illegal as recreational. And it's really impacting all of the medical issues because it's all the time collides when we try to push for easier access and more responsible way of dealing with that, aka education, knowledge, guidance for people, for medical patients. There isn't enough guidance. So people that get prescribed with the legal permission to use medical cannabis often doesn't know what they are doing. And it's creating gaps and it's creating misuse and sometimes overuse or use of the wrong strain of cannabis for what you're trying to deal with, especially in oncology, for example, and the PTSD. because the science taught us and experience taught us that certain strains for people with cancer can really harm them. It can accelerate their disease instead of help them mitigate all the symptoms. And instead of opening the market for all kind of good experience knowledge like Rick Simpson oil, for example, we cannot have access to those for those pharmacies in Israel, not in a legal way. So if someone actually go and do it by his own and helps people in need, he get prosecuted and jailed. And the way they open the market in Israel for the medical industry, we have it in pharmacies now. But the pharmacies see it as the golden goose egg, like the golden egg of the goose from the stories. They see only how much they can sell us and how much they can recommend always for the most pricey strains instead of really look for the strains that can benefit people. So the range of prices can go from, I say, 150 shekels for 10 grams, which is a package. They sell it in 10 grams package here, to almost 400 shekels. It's like 4 times. And if we compare it to dollars, it goes like $350 is about, I'm sorry, 350 shekels is about $100 for 10 grams. So it's really pricey and not everyone can afford this treatment. And all the insurance business, most of them, and also the medical insurance doesn't always cover it. For me, I'm a lucky patient because I'm coming through the Department of Rehabilitation, the Ministry of Defense. I'm a veteran. I'm recognized as a disabled veteran with my PTSD from combat, and they cover it for me. So if I buy 10 grams or 90 grams, 80 grams, it doesn't matter. They will pay for the whole deal. One more thing we have here is that the way that the psychiatrists signed, they don't have enough knowledge to know how much to give us, each person, because it's different. Our biology is different from people to people, from males to females, and also if we'll take 2 males at the same height, the same weight, the same PTSD in a way, we're still entirely different people. Our nutrition is different, our immune system is different, the way we were raised and our microbiome, everything is different. But they still will sign us the same. And for me, for example, I moved from when they first gave me the permission to do it legally, it was 2014. And they first allowed me 20 grams, but I was already using about 70 grams per month. So I was also a legal patient and also need to go to the illegal, and there is difference in what you get and the responsibility and liability. And many of my friends still struggle with these issues. I was able to put my license into 80 grams a month, which is very, very uncommon, very rare in Israel to have so many grams, but it's because I'm relentless and I didn't stop pushing for it and educating my psychiatrist about it. I actually was consulting my psychiatric about cannabis, and he's the one that recommending me. So he was full of fears. And he said, I cannot allow myself to prescribe you so much. But I told him, but all the pills that I'm saving and not using, I I have less damage into my body. I have less risk of suicidal ideation, of harm my kidneys and my liver and my brain and my lungs and every system that correlate with the medication, which is all of our body. And I also been with him in the journey with the new startup that's called Psyche Medical, that are now trying to get approved by the FDA, as far as I know, because they developed a method, like a way to treat people with microdosing, to have the smallest amount of cannabis possible with the maximum effect for losing pain, for anxious, for all kind of symptoms that can really impact us, and it's a big difference. So I actually made the move in the last year from smoking and using oils and inhaling 90 grams per month. Now I'm using only the Psyche Medical. I'm not smoking anymore. And I use 1 or 2 magazines, it's called, from the Psyche Medical. And each magazine contains only 1 gram, a little bit less than 1 gram of cannabis, and it lasts for 60 vibes, 60 dosage of inhalation. And I can choose if I want it to be 250 milligrams, 500, 750, or 1,000 milligrams. And I actually even don't use the highest amount already. I managed to reduce, so I'm actually moved from 90 grams per month to 1 or 2 grams a month. So I also compare it to, instead of using a 5-kilo hammer to treat myself, now I'm using a surgery scalpel to treat myself. And it's a big change. It's a huge change, and it's not easy to do because I don't have the high anymore. I use cannabis without the high, and the high also helped me to be more social, to help me mitigate anxious and seizures I used to have. And also one extra thing I need to deal with is the nightmares. When I smoked cannabis, I didn't need to deal with the big portion of my nightmares. And now I have to deal with them, which is something that I see as an opportunity to grow, but most of my friends really fear it. And I can really understand. So it's very positive, but with big struggles that I know that most of my friends that moved to Psyche Medical, they still use both. For the nighttime, they still smoke a little bit before they go to bed, so they can actually sleep. But for me, I'm trying to deal with that and to let my brain and with lots of therapy and other yoga, meditation, talking with my friends, sharing, trying to help other people, working with plants. I'm trying to mitigate the challenges through that. And I see it as an opportunity to process things that I was afraid or couldn't process before. So it's like I walked with crouches for many years to be able to actually move around, and now I'm trying without. So in Israel, this treatment is all covered by the Department of Defense, and also we have the Israeli National Insurance, Bituach Leumi it's called, also now putting it inside, like they're going to cover it for people, because we lose lots of the damages that we can have from using cannabis. Because many people that smoke cannabis in Israel still mix it with tobacco. It's the common way of using cannabis in Israel still. And not everyone is smart enough to leave the tobacco aside. And I know that tobacco have its own tradition and also some benefits you can get from it, but not on daily use. So in Israel, it's a challenge, and we have few of the leading researchers in the world around cannabis, but our government, our Ministry of Health still see it as a forbidden drug, and still it's dual way of thinking, because they do let over 100,000 patients to use it out of a population of 10 million people, roughly. And so, and still it's illegal. So they give you the permission to use illegal substance, illegal drug. And we have a lot to go forward yet. We have a lot to improve. And the main thing I think we need to improve is things like you do, actually. I'm sorry, my son. He came back from a show. Sorry, line of thought. Okay, so in Israel, we need to get people educated about the plants and about how versatile is it, and about for how many thousands of years the human population, Homo sapiens, actually used it for various reasons, from women that use it to reduce pain every month, and people that use it for ceremony and for healing process and ceremonies, and many societies that before alcohol became so wide and the industry got so strong and intense, so many cultures used to have the plant in the garden, and you had the headache, you had the stomach ache, you used cannabis. It was, they say that also in our religion in Israel, the Israelites in the temple, it was one of the 12 components that they used in the temple for ceremony and to worship the God. And with all kind of plants together, and there is more and more testimonials about it. And so we need to get the people educated, and the people that sell it today, the pharmacists, actually breaking their oath of do no harm, and they just want to use it as a way to bring people to their store and buy more, and the most expensive and more trendy. And when you go to the pharmacy, you have a menu with I don't know, maybe 100 or 150 different breeds of cannabis, and it's overwhelming for people, and they cannot, it's impossible to make smart and knowledgeable decisions that way. And of course, they will try to sell you something with a price of $100, $150, and not the $20, because the profit will go there. And you can really feel the influence of the market powers on the medical treatment. So they call it medical cannabis in Israel, but it's still not entirely medical. And there's a lot of relying on each other experiences. I'm sorry, just a second. Is that? Okay, sorry. And so I hope I answered because I tend to talk a lot. And if you have any more questions, I will be very, very happy to try and answer. And also, I have to say that the university, I was a student, I just graduated, and I just 3 years late, I served my seminar work and got my score, and I passed, and I will have my degree in sustainability and government. But
Right.
in where I study in Reichman University, we have we have cannabis in the curriculum in few ways. Also, there's a club for students for green bees, for cannabis business. And we have a big school of... זה לא מתאים. Sorry. He's vacuuming. He came to the computer, which is making... I guess it's making lots of sound for you. So we have also... They opened the new medicine school in the university. And there is a big internship and business schools in Reichman. So it's all coming together. So I guess we will see more and more. And I will be very, very happy to try and connect the dots internationally. And so we can learn from your curriculum and your experience over, you said, 8 years. It's a lot.
Well, in 8 semesters, 2 semesters,
8 semesters.
4. Yeah, it's about half
So
that.
4 years.
But
Still,
it is
it's
a
a
lot. I
lot.
mean, the program has changed and expanded, and there's so much more we could do. I'm really like a one-person department. We're in the horticulture of all the places in the university to be. It was generated from the horticulture department. A former professor that had taught in horticulture, I think for like decades, had heard about cannabis and had gone out to California from Ohio and had learned out there and then brought it back to us as it was just starting to legalize. So we are fortunate to even have a program on our campus. We My course is given in the fall and in the spring, and then during the summer we have a growing course where the students have a chance to grow hemp and hops. So they're growing the elements for cannabis and for beer actually. And so the class is like kind of a combo class. Um, but wow, was that interesting to hear how they do it in Israel. That was, and if I understand you correctly, um, you were up to the 80 grams a month or 90 gram a dope because you
Yeah,
had
90.
your medical professionals had prescribed it. But then I'm not sure I understood you, then there was a change to micro dosing and you're taking it in a small. How are you taking it then instead of smoking? Was that I wasn't sure if I caught everything you said.
Okay, I can go and bring the magic machine that I use if you want to show you. It will take
I
me
am
about a
curious.
minute. And also I will be very happy to send you information and to introduce you with the people that build this startup. It's an Israeli startup that they made a inhaler, a medical inhaler, and they have their own algorithm to heat the cannabis in a responsible way to avoid burning it. So you
Okay.
don't have anything that's related to actually burning the material. They just heat in it with the algorithm. And they took 1 gram and divided to 60 portions. And it's like inside a little SIM card, kind of, in a round magazine. And you put it into the machine. And the machine knows to help you inhale correctly, not too strong, not too weak, to have the successful inhalation. And that way, it's kind of in a medical standard for the first time in the world, because they buy their cannabis from a Dutch grower from the Netherlands. And it's one of the only or few companies in the world, growers, that know how to make the same strain constant with the time after time, year after year, to keep the biology of the plant almost identical. Because we know that with plants, not only cannabis, trees, flowers, food, it's always changing with the environment. So in the Netherlands, they made it good enough and standardized enough so they can call it actually medical, by medical standards. So the biology of the plant doesn't deviate as much.
So you get the plant material and the device. It comes together.
I have the magazine with a little bit less than 1 gram divided to 60 portions. I don't need to do anything except to put it inside and close it. Turn on the device, choose from 4 different dosage, 250 milligrams, 500, 750, and 1,000. And it's microdosing because it's really small amounts. When I take the strongest amount, if I take it twice, one after the other, 1,000 and another 1,000, it's still less than one small puff from a joint. It's really, it's really microdosing. And it's different.
Do you use that frequently? Is there a more frequent use of it because it's microdose throughout the day? I'm just curious.
In the beginning, I asked for 5 or 6 magazines per month, and now I use only 1 or 2. I actually
decrease.
I'm being able to lower and lower and still have it always with me. So if I feel the necessity, I can use it. And because it's so techy and without almost any scent, and you don't burn anything, so it doesn't go around to the environment. I can do it in the hospital. I needed to do a medical procedure not long ago, a very serious one. And I just brought it with me. And after they woke me up, and I use it to use less painkillers. And in the hospital, inside the room where no one is allowed to smoke, I could enjoy the benefits of my cannabis without it being any issue. It's even was because it's still very new and most of the doctors doesn't know about it. So it was something that they came to ask me about and learn about, and was thinking to try and bring it to the hospital for other patients. And also because of the unorthodox journey that I had with cannabis, the big amount that I used to consume, and it really helped me for a long time. It really helped me. It kept me being able to meet Robert and Rico and communicate, and to be connected to the world and being active and go to study and sleep and being active with my family. It served me very well. I cannot say bad things about cannabis, even though I used to really use a lot of it. I lost my line of thought. I'm sorry. Uh, where was I? Uh,
No, you answered the question. That was I was curious about the device and how often and where you could use it and you've answered my next 20 questions actually. So thank you.
my pleasure.
Um, it's very interesting hearing some of this. There were many points you made that made me think about things and compare. One point you made early about the underprescribing to your needs and the nearly the government is forcing patients to turn to a black market and encourage it um, by underprescribing. And I think that's a lot of what has happened here. We have a big opioid problem in our country, and doctors overprescribed and then started underprescribing and left everybody turning to the black market, the illegal market, and other options and alternatives. And it's just interesting and unfortunate how often government decisions force the black market, encourage an illegal activities. I shouldn't even be saying the black market. I'm meaningful, intentionally changing it, but the illegal parallel markets are often encouraged by the government's very regulations to underprescribe to patients that need more products. Um, you also mentioned all. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for mentioning that it's illegal market and not the black market. The black refers to do it in the dark, to do it in the night and in a shady place, and not to color of skin or anything. That I know that many people have the sensitivity about using these terms, the illegal market. It's very, thank you for putting it in the right terminology.
Well, I'd like to offer another set of terminology then. I like the term traditional market. And when we're talking about something that's been used for thousands of years, I think the new market is this medical market, this patentable product, this lining everything up to be cookie cutter and sterile in a lot of ways is something that's the new thing. So I like to use the term traditional. And when it comes to being able to access this, I think we're put through a lot of hurdles that are unnecessary and ultimately damaging to the people who are intended to benefit from the use of this herb. And when we start to lock people up in different silos on how they choose to engage it, or the information they can access about it, or the conversations they can have around it, or the legislation they can pass about it, I think we get lost in the weeds, to put it in a pun. This is, for me, here in Arizona, with a lot of the ignorance and straight up bigotry and backwards thinking that's taken place around this issue. And for as long as it's been allowed to maintain itself and perpetuate into other areas of our lives and take up this really outsized attention span, when it's really boiled down to believing patients when they tell you what they're feeling and looking at the precedent that exists historically in common era, and then asking really common sense questions to ask how we can move forward to help people, and then make ourselves as well prepared as we can be scientifically, right? What we're talking about, facts matter, Rhetoric is everywhere, but facts matter, especially around here. And when you come in with agendas, when you come in with preconceived notions about what's going on and who's going to benefit and why, I think you really missed the mark, whoever that is. And when we open it up to honest dialogue and conversation, I think we all learn a lot about each other's experience with this, about the possibilities that exist, and the potential for expansion and improvement on things that are already in movement, but just need attention and need the right kind of care. And empathy goes a long way, I feel.
I think it's big too. We touched on two big points here. Self-titration was a component that was brought up that's very little is discussed and talked about around this plant. Oftentimes it's used and misuse, and never the self-titration component of what the individual experiences. Even me coming from my own experience, they're very much similar to Nahum's. I would started with 5 ounces a month, and I'm down to 2 a month now to maintain myself and actually do more and be more productive at the 2 ounces a month than I ever was post service. So that self titration component is a very key component that patients need to start discussing more often and start maybe annotating and taking notes on when they start seeing and noticing these things happening, to where, hey, all of a sudden I have leftovers at the end of the month. Why is this happening? You mean I get to go and spend less now at the dispensary and still be able to maintain my lifestyle? And then 2, use disorder. And I said use disorder, right? Didn't put anything before that, because we're seeing through all of these forms and means and modalities of medicine, pain medicine, the way you put it, Bonnie, with how these doctors overprescribed and then all of a sudden underprescribe these patients. Well, in terms of cannabis, we have cannabis use disorder. And by definition, that is the use of the disorder, is that your lifestyle has now become reliant on a substance to help you get through your life. And so this use disorder component would tie into any medicine that is given to a patient that is utilizing something to live day to day. And so just having a use disorder contradicts the whole medical field. And so by discussing this and hopefully bringing these things to light, we can start creating the conversation to where, when is that line crossed to where you start doing more harm than good in the medical profession? And that comes through education.
Yeah, it's all the terminology that's used. A misuse disorder doesn't even apply. I mean, you would not apply it to a diabetic that is addicted to their insulin and they cannot have a lifestyle without. Nobody that's on prescription medicines ever gets called a misuse disorder except cannabis. And some of the stronger medications that you can have disorders, but that's crazy that a frequent, regular use that your body is using to function to its best ability would even be called a disorder. That, um,
It's
yeah,
very precise.
yeah. And I do have a question about the self titration. You are talking about using these magazines and you're using this device, but you also mentioned that there's areas of your there's still needs, there's still areas that it wasn't getting you for it sounded like a lot of your mental health things that you have to find additional ways to address them, and it sounds like you're finding a lot of healthy ways. to do this, and you're suggesting other things to your colleagues, which is great. But I'm wondering, why aren't these being met? And they were, you're saying, when you were smoking it and using at a higher level. So I'm curious what the difference you see in it. And you've had to go outside the plant, it sounds like now. So I'm curious about that.
I think it's related to my own personal healing path. And I think that for many, many years, to be able to learn and be open to the world and to acquire skills and tools that can benefit me and I can use in daily life, I needed the cannabis as a enabler, if I can say, to make it even possible for me to go and study in the university, to go to study in the university, to go and learn yoga, meditation, to go outside and treat the plants and be an entrepreneur and to help other people and go to talk with the high schools and military and pre-military schools and even the clinic that I was patient in, the psychiatric clinic. I went and I did a lecture there about my journey, and I talked about how cannabis helps me. And some of the doctors there and the shrinks there are people that against it still. They against it. They don't believe it actually helps. They see it as a dangerous path. And without the cannabis, I wasn't able to come to the clinic that I'm a patient in. And to actually tell my story and show them a different perspective. And when I was ready in my own personal journey to lower the dosage, I did it. But it's not something I recommend to people, just go and don't smoke. No, I recommend to people to go to cannabis and to nutrition and healthy routines in their life, like to treat their sleep hygiene and hygiene in total, and go to nature and get the benefits that all around us in nature and music. And it's cannabis enables the holistic approach. So it's a very big and strong component, but it doesn't stand alone. And cannabis helps all of us. Look, we have this conversation and it's around cannabis. And you said you started as a social worker, and it really now echoes to me what the social role of cannabis. To be able to, most people that use cannabis, use or enjoy cannabis, they don't do it alone in the dark. It's a social thing. It enables, usually, if it's possible, if it's not illegal and dangerous, they won't choose to do it in the hideout. It's a social thing, and it's part of the medicine, I think, to be able to connect with society. And you said you have a growing course. So you answered one of the questions I had, because learning to treat plants, learning to grow your own medicine, learning to take responsibility on your own path of healing, and to be able to name it without fear in society is a big part of getting healthier and grow and treat the trauma, whatever trauma it is, if it's physical, if it's PTSD. And today we know that PTSD is also, it's have its biology sides of it, and the brain and the lungs and the microbiome. And cannabis, in a way, touches all of those points. It's like a nexus for healing. And trying, like Rico said, to put it in frames that are hard and unflexible that's the misuse. disorder, actually.
Yes. You have newly defined what the disorder is.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's important, like, to continue what you were saying, Nahum. The communal component and the social component, and when it comes to the human species, uh, together we are communal species. We are species of herd, and as a herd species, we need communal engagement to grow and to develop. And through this growth and develop process is what elevates us as a species. Uh, with cannabis, it starts off as a culture, and this culture, through traditions that have been passed down from as far back as we know, have all been based off of communal engagement and communal healing. It was never strictly held off to be something so special and so unique that it needed to be held privately. And through unnecessary means, we also know that cannabis is utilized as a communal component to individuals that have a hard time opening up, have a hard time speaking, engaging with other individuals, because it allows you to share and have this communal engagement. So when we also start thinking about this, and what psychology I think is starting to catch on to now, is the whole health approach. And through the whole health approach, what we need to understand is that the brain that operates everything externally shows effects externally. So if something's wrong with the brain, then something's wrong externally somewhere. And through that understanding that it's all connected means that you have to connect all the dots in the healing process. And once we can start understanding that and sharing that more openly, and maybe better, more layman, then the more that people that understand it, the more they'll start taking the engagement approach into their healing process. And that is through embracing nature again, as well as how can the modern day medicine assist with the help of nature.
When you were
One more little thing. Sorry, Rico.
yeah,
When you talk, I couldn't help it to think about shame, the role of shame. And when we put it into this private mode, that we inject shame into the healing system process of people instead of reducing it. And research shows us that shame have strong influence on a person's health and society health. So we have to take the shame element and push it aside. And it's one strong reason to bring cannabis back into society with no guilt and no shame, and to let it have its cultural role and physical role. And as we all of us know, we have this cannabinoid system inherited into our own biology. We can produce some of the cannabinoids inside of our own body in a way. So it's just actually tuning into who we are and what we are, and let it be.
well, so a couple things that come to my mind that were mentioned: whole health, and then you broke it down into what happens when we, engage in stinking thinking or just off mentally, like it shows physically, but our gut biomes too. And if we're talking about re-engaging with the community and coming back and completing the circle for veterans after service and whatnot, like reestablishing that connection with the land, what's grown from the land, not just this medicinal herb, right? But now we're talking about our nutrition, or at least that's what I would like to bring into this conversation now, our gut biomes and how it all ties together. Because if we're not sleeping well, if we're not eating well, and if we're not engaged in healthy and productive activities, along with our other obligations professionally, financially, or within the family unit or your friend network or whatever, we're going to feel off. And as long as that keeps compiling and more of those sections compile onto each other, it demonstrates through your physical presence and your reactions to things and how your attention span works and just how you're feeling about yourself in general, that whole shame. And when people don't know where their food's coming from, they're not connected to their food source, and they're in these food deserts, they call them, or they just don't have the right type of knowledge around what a healthy, balanced, nutritional diet looks like and access to it. These things compound on each other. And then when you have a medical system that's providing all these quick fixes because they're overwhelmed, right? They'd rather give a pill to somebody, send them off, than sit there, take the time, break down their issues, and go over what's happening really with the patient and work with them in that slow, methodical way. Modern day medicine isn't built for that. It's pump and dump. You have, individual psychiatrists, psychologists, and medical professionals, nurses, and others who are seeing 30, 40, 50 patients an hour, in some like overwhelmed systems like ERs and stuff like that. Like they're just coming through and they're trying to diagnose people and then trying to get people through the system. 30, 40 an hour might be a high number, but it's a lot. In the VA, I don't know how many people are coming through the doctor's offices per hour, but it's something where you go in there, take like 5 minutes to brief somebody, and then the next 5 minutes is going through the symptoms, and then the next 5 minutes is going through what they're going to prescribe, and then you're out the door. Is what it feels like. So I think when we get down to the basics, and we start talking about the human things, the human needs, and what's available to us, what we can provide as a community, we start to look at these medicines and treatments differently, because it just is different. It's not a new approach, but a more sober approach, as it were, to what it is that we're engaged in on a regular basis that's contributing to either our well-being or our dis-ease. Right? Not to like...
So, Bonnie, do you see your class expanding anytime in the near future? Maybe becoming a class on campus, or is it going to stay remote?
It originally was a class on campus, and it is registered as an on-campus class. We brought it online during COVID, and I realize I can access people outside of Ohio to bring them in as experts. We have one or two speakers per week, and and they have way more expertise than me. Someone that is opened and operating a grow operation. I'll bring that in. I'll bring state officials. I'll bring. It's very dependent on speakers because the information is changing every semester. The products, the research, the regulations. Whatever we're studying one semester very well might be different the next semester. So what I could really just do is enlighten my students and show them where to go throughout their lives to do that research, to enlighten others, because a lot of the information in our field doesn't stay the same. Um, I use I use a speaker method. We also do peer-to-peer teaching. We've done a lot of really interesting things online. We meet Thursday. We just met last night for 3 hours. Um, and to meet as a 3 hour class online, I have to make it fascinating. And it has to be fascinating for me also. So I'm only bringing in the best speakers. And I'm pointing to Robert. I'm not sure where he is on everybody's screen. But for our students, to hear about the veteran impact and on cannabis and the cannabis impact on veterans, it's a piece of the knowledge puzzle that they're not apt to hear, and they are very likely to remember for the rest of their lives. Particularly on Veterans Day next week, I am fairly certain I have 24 people that were on that screen when Robert spoke that are following him now and that are gonna really think it through when they hear about cannabis, when they hear about veterans, when they hear about veterans issues beyond cannabis. I want my students to be woke, engaged, and active, not just in my class, not just this year. I'm more concerned what they'll be doing and thinking in 5 years, to be honest, and in 10 years, because that's going to make the difference. It's the impact that you could make today really plants the seeds for tomorrow. Um,
I like that.
so that would be my long range
So talking
wrap up.
about the seeds of tomorrow, where do you see cannabis curriculum and just education on campus going around this subject in the next 5 years or 10 years? Do you think that we have a fully embodied curriculum, or are you still working on the fringes trying to figure out what's going on?
Um, I see it as growing. I see it becoming part of more universities' curriculum. And when I talk to other educators at universities, it's interesting to see like where it is. Like if the degree is in a business school, or if the degree is in a horticultural school. Um, at University of Cincinnati, it's one of our colleges is um, design, arts, architecture, and planning. So the horticulture department is in the School of Planning. So it's um, part of a small program, and we need to get the word out throughout the university all the time. And advisors that can advise students in careers and in curriculum, that's key, because my students are getting jobs. They are I have speakers that are putting their contact information up at the end of class, and they are texting me because I'm on a personal relationship with most of them. And Robert, we need to move to text. I think we're using other mediums, but the next morning and saying, two of your students contacted me and I'm interviewing them next week. And so now, 7 semesters later, I'm seeing my students in dispensaries, in grows. We are walking through and they're like, "Hi, Professor Rabin, do you remember me?" They are reaching out to me. And they are moving in the industry. They're not just getting in the first door, they're being looked at and promoted 6 months later. Some of them are they are working in testing labs in other states. They have opened dispensaries in other states. They have moved throughout the industry and they're doing amazing things. So there are a lot of opportunities um, for students, and that's exciting for them. And the word definitely needs to go out because our industry is hiring, and they would prefer to hire those that are educated, have shown an interest, as opposed to taking a chance on somebody else. So it really gives us, our students, an opportunity to learn and to set those networks up for the future, and to build a community. So, I mean, I think that's a golden opportunity, and I hope more universities take advantage of it. And it is the braver, bolder universities because federally in our country, on a federal level, it is not legalized yet. In all universities, they have research funding, they have student loan funding. Nearly every student is getting government funding. So if you look at the big picture, um, it's there's a lot to be done and there's a lot of potential, and we need to move forward with it.
So as veterans, I use my GI Bill to go to school, and as it stands now, I just got confirmation from one of the senator's offices here in Arizona. I asked him, as I used all my benefits now, but theoretically, as somebody who is eligible for GI benefits and this course come up, can I use my GI Bill benefits to take this course? And their answer was no. Cannabis is still illegal, right? We don't recognize that. You can't use this for that. And there's still a lot of obstruction that exists, but there's a lot of potential too. And I think incorporating the people who have been doing this into the curriculum is important, right? Not just the legal birds, but the people who are rooted in this culture, who know the plant, who know the culture, and who know and have been on the other side of the politics is important. It's needed. It's vital. And so when we're talking about the multidisciplinary aspect on campus, we need to get the law school looking at what does 50 years of a federal investigational new drug program actually mean? And what do they do with all that information when they gather it? And what do they do when those patients die who have been on the program and receiving federal cannabis for decades? Where does that information go? If it's a federally funded research project for 50 years, and our government keeps saying that we have no information available on the medicinal utility of this herb, why was it doled out on a monthly basis in tin cans to a select few of Americans? So I would see the legal professionals having a field day with that question alone, not yet the other questions that raises. And then you have the agriculture department, you have the psychiatry and psychology department, you have the School of Social and Behavioral Sciences to look at the social impacts and the racial disparities of enforcement and what it means for holding various groups and communities back while other ones progress with quote unquote legal drugs that we know to be more dangerous, documented, than what it is. And then you have the whole medical professional that has to make it make sense. Why we've had cannabis listed as a Schedule I narcotic with zero medicinal value and all this other stuff is going on. You have to make sense the government patent on cannabis as an analgesic and a neuroprotectant, especially when we have veterans who come back with traumatic brain injury, which post-traumatic stress, the symptoms mirror the symptoms of traumatic brain injury. So when we have all these things that are coming together, and yet we still have this authority figure, whether it's on campus, in the communities, or in government, who are saying no, 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 shaking their finger, but all the educated people on campus just go along with the status quo, ignoring the reality that's in the room. Where do we go from there? What an interesting dilemma we're in, I think, it feels like, as far as where this has been and where it could go, where it needs to go.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. We do need a lot of voices in the room. And when I look at, I have 15 weeks for us to meet. I have so much material from so many different aspects. but I want to make sure all the voices are included. And we do have home growers that go through their grow and on screen and talk about it. We have that voice. Um, we have our indigenous tribal voice. We have someone from the Menominee tribe that comes forward and talks about all the ways it's been used spiritually and culturally and their own history with it. And we don't forget that, I mean, hemp came from a slave trade here, and it all was grown on plantations in Kentucky by brutal forced slave labor. And I make sure we include a unit on that so nobody forgets when they easily buy their hemp products or where it originally came from. And that's a whole history that's very different than our white American history. So I really make sure we do have all the voices in. And I could use I could use more weeks to teach that. I mean, 15 weeks, it's hard to pick and choose, and there is new information every semester, but we do have a lot of depth and opportunity that we should definitely take advantage of wherever we can.
I think what you're doing is
Wow.
very, it's inspiring, and I think the fact that you're communicating with other educators who are doing the same thing, I think it's only a matter of time before they say, hey, we need actual departments, we need actual funding. We have an entire industry here who wants to provide funding. There's opportunities for grants, there's opportunities for this, that, and the third, especially as it relates to veterans. The future looks very promising if we can get rational, right, level-headed, fact-based conversations and dialogue going.
Can you imagine where we could be 10 years from now with these conversations? Everything we're talking about could be very true. And we could be evaluating it now and looking how to improve it. But I hope it exists in the ways we are visualizing it. We will manifest this.
If you believe you can achieve it.
Yes.
What do you guys think? How long have you been on right now?
I I have to apologize. I have my family dinner in a few minutes. I have to get off the conversation, but it's so intriguing. It's so interesting, and really, Robert and Rico, we do meet for a few years already, and I want to thank both of you that made me meet also with Professor Rabin. It's a big honor, and you really inspired me personally. And to hear you talk about my friend and partner Robert in such a manner, it's made my heart go open and wide, and I could put my shoulders a little bit higher as a veteran, even though we're in allied nations and different continents. And the depth and widespread that you talk about, and you said you have only 15 weeks to do it with in each class, in each semester. Uh, it's inspiring, and I want to thank you for what you're doing and to thank you for your time to being with us. And it's priceless. And thank you for the good eyes and for the knowledge and for the smile. And I hope we do meet and talk again, and maybe we can make more connections and more ties, and to bring into this, you said you have a yearly meeting with all of the other universities that do have those classes. Maybe we can join also to those meetings to bring the knowledge from Israel also to be accessible in the States. And really, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm very honored to be part of this conversation, and I want to thank you all for your time and for your service and for protecting me and all the things that are important to me because I know it's up to you. And you put your lives forward and your interests forward to protect us all. And I feel that and I'm aware of it. And I have a big thank you for you. Um, Also, I might want to reach out as we do talk about Israel and the origins of much of our medical research. We start with Israel and then Canada, and we move around the world. And I would like to invite you to a future class. I mean, I would love for you to pop in when we are talking about Israel. I mean, to be able to introduce a veteran of Israel to tell us about what his country's doing, that will make a lifelong impact on everybody that is on that screen. And they would read things in advance that I would give them, you would provide to me, so they would be prepared to hear about Israel. And I think what we are doing worldwide and how we are connecting is such an important thing to share with today's youth who will be our leaders.
You had me at hello.
I like that. Thank you. The same. And I would be happy to meet with you all again at another time if you're meeting on anything else. This was heartwarming and knowledgeable. I've been excited for it all week, and I've had many exciting things this week, but this moved me a lot, and thank you for including me, Robert.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for joining a group of crazy bunch of veterans from around the world that are just trying to make a little bit of a difference.
Well,
So,
you're making a large difference, and there's an army of people that support Robert and would say all the words that you've heard me say. So, let me share that with you as well. That he has a lot of support, and he's done amazing things for us in our country and inspiring us to do better and be better people ourselves.
thank you. A lot of it comes from these two down here, though. We've been working a lot together, and all I do is share the information in which we come up with and put on paper. So,
Well, it's important
do
work.
it, as you would say.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah,
This was great.
this was awesome.
So, thank you.
Nahum, enjoy your family, enjoy your dinner. Love you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess Shabbat Shalom, it's Friday night there, correct? It's a Shabbat dinner
Yes.
that you're
Cool.
all having. And
Yeah.
probably well, no, it's 6:30. All right, I'm looking at the time difference also.
Yeah. You're on point. Yeah.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.